Yeah, they're in the corner. Okay.
Okay.
I have a
Thank
friend
you.
that's
Now-
really generous, and every so often he just brings a case.
Sweet.
Case of water,
Yeah, everyone gets a friend.
a water boy, basically.
You must have been
He must have been fine, yeah.
Hey,
Okay, welcome everybody to part 2 of the Essence of Chassidus. I handed out the pamphlets that we have over here. This is again part 2 in our excerpt from a 1965 talk by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So in addition to the text that we have today, I also made a handy dandy chart that's going to hopefully help us center ourselves and understand a little bit, hopefully, what's going on over here. Also, we have some Sidurim over here if anybody wants to follow along and look inside. What are we talking about? Well, it's part 2 of our discussion of the essence of Chassidus. What is Chassidus? So last week I opened and I said that even though said that the class is about what Chassidus is, that I did not plan on actually answering that question. At least not last week, and I don't think I'm going to answer it this week either. But we're going to try. We're going to try to answer it, even though I said we're not going to answer it. But hopefully you'll see what I mean. And I'm sorry for being vague. I'm not trying to do that on purpose. So there was a young boy who decided he wanted to write a letter to God. So he takes out his pencil, piece of paper, he writes a letter, "Dear God, can you please send me $100? Thank you." And he signs his name. Folds it up, puts it in an envelope. This is in the good old days before email and texting. Puts it in an envelope, addresses it, gone. Goes to the corner mailbox, drops it in the mailbox. Postman picks it up, looks at the letter. What do you do with a letter addressed to God? Where are you supposed to deliver that to? So the postman decides, I'll just take it to the president in the White House. So the letter is delivered to the White House, and it reaches the Oval Office, the president's desk. He takes his fancy 24-karat gold letter opener. I'm imagining. Opens the letter, the envelope, takes out the letter, reads it. "Dear God, please send $100. Thank you." And has the name and address. President looks at the letter, looks to his advisor, says, "Send him $10. So they take out a $10 bill, they put it in the letter, put it in a return envelope, and they send it back to the boy. The boy gets the envelope, opens it up, and sees there's only $10. And says, "God, next time, please don't send it through Washington. They take 90%. Anyway.
like 40 to 50.
So we are investigating Chassidus. What is Chassidus? It's something that's grown in popularity over a number of years. And I bet if you would go up to random people, Jewish people, and ask them, "Hey, what's Chassidus?" Many people will start talking. They will start telling you something, but within a matter of seconds, they're going to be stammering and realizing that they actually have no clue what Chassidus actually is. They're going to say things like wearing a shtreimel, the fur hat, that's Chassidus. They're going to say things like eating 2 types of kugel on Shabbos, not just one, that's Chassidus. They're going to say all sorts of different things. And it could be none of those things are wrong, but I also would venture to say that none of them are correct either. So in order to try to get an insight into what is Chassidus, what we started doing last week is we took Modeh Ani, the first thing a Jew is meant to recite when they wake up in the morning. We took the prayer Modeh Ani. Anyone know who wrote Modeh Ani?
David Melech?
That's a good guess. That's a very good guess, David Melech, but no.
Anshe
Knesset Gedola, the men of the Great Assembly, also a great guess, but also no.
Oh, I'm so excited. That was really convincing.
It was a good guess. It was a good guess. The answer is that one of the students of the Arizal actually wrote Modeh Ani. And in the original prayer service, as we actually mentioned last week, people didn't say Modeh Ani. They didn't need to say Modeh Ani. They just went straight to the blessing that we have in our siddur. In my siddur, I'm following in this siddur right here. It's on page 5. Elokai neshama shel. My God, the soul which you have given within me is pure. So we took Modeh Ani, which says Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayim shechzarta bi lishmosi bechemla rabo emunasecha, which translates, I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, King with a capital K, right? For you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. It's the first thing we say in the morning. So what we set out to do last week, and we got halfway there, so to speak, is to analyze this according to the 4 levels of Torah interpretation. Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Soy. Pshat means the basic or contextual meaning. Remez means the hint or the allusion. Drush means the derivative meaning, or if you wanted to use a fancy philosophical term, if you take philosophy 101, hermeneutics. Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows what that means. It's like when if you talk to someone about tefillin, and you're like, phylacteries. Like nobody knows what phylacteries are. If you don't know what tefillin are, you don't know what phylacteries are either. In any event, that's drush, is what did I say? The derivative explanation. Then you have sod, literally translating as the secret, which is the Kabbalistic explanation. Those are the 4 levels, Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Soy. If you put the first letter of each word together, it spells Pardes, which means an orchard. So there's the idea of the Pardes interpretations of the Torah. 4 different interpretations of the Torah for any given verse or passage in the Talmud, or et cetera, or story in the Torah, et cetera. However, we're going to add a 5th level of interpretation, which hopefully, as we're going to see, we're not actually adding anything in a sense. But we're hopefully just going to reveal the inherent light within all of these 4 interpretations. So, last week we started with the pshat of Modeh Ani, the so-called siman. If you want to look on your charts, I did the best I could to write everything in boom, nikuda, just a point of the ideas discussed. So, on the left column, it says, what is it? Meaning, what is the goal? What is the job description of each level of interpretation? So, pshat, what is it? To explain according to the basic and or contextual meaning. So, and then on the line below that, Modeh Ani. What is the pshat of Modeh Ani? Well, in plain English, Hashem, well, we don't actually say Hashem. We say, Modeh Ani lefanecha. I offer thanks to you. Who's the you? Hashem. We don't say that. We don't say God. We just say you in Modeh Ani, right? On page 5 in the Siddur. So what is Modeh Ani? Thanks for giving me my soul back. Thanks for giving me my soul / life back. That is the pshat of Modeh Ani.
Eliyahu.
Eliyahu. There you go. If he comes, he'll teach us a whole new interpretation of all that stuff. Okay. Good. The pshat of Modeh Ani is, thanks for giving me my soul back. Thanks for giving me my life back. That's the pshat. Then last week we did the remez, the hint or the allusion. What is it? What is the remez? To reveal what is hinted at on a deeper level. That's what a hint is. Yeah, everything's okay so far? Hint. What is the hint? What is the remez of Modeh Ani? It hints towards, it alludes to the resurrection of the dead. Why? As we spoke last week, because when you're sleeping, you look dead, kind of, not exactly dead, but you're lying prone, your heart rate, all your vital functions are slowing down. The Talmud tells us, our sages tell us, that actually sleep is 1/60th of death. It's not death, but it's 1/60th of death. So therefore, when you wake up in the morning, that's not the resurrection of the dead, but it alludes to the dead coming back to life. That's what we spoke about last week. Good? Okay. Let us now get back to the text, and we're going to use our text here as well as our chart. Let's see, where are we? Okay, we're on page 59 in the booklet, the last paragraph. In Yonah shel Modeh Ani al pi chelik hadrusha b'Torah. So what is the explanation of Modeh Ani according to Drush? Remember Drush, if you look on your chart, what is it? Drush is to derive something else from it. So it's less direct, I guess you could say. So what is the Drush of Modeh Ani? The returning of your soul, the restoration of your soul every morning, which means it's new every morning. That is, I see a typo.
Sorry,
I noticed
okay.
it's okay that there's a typo.
Yeah.
It's okay. I noticed details, which is a blessing, and sometimes the opposite of a blessing. Anyway. The fact that Hashem returns our soul to us in the morning, but does not hold on to it for the debts, debts, for the debts that a person may owe Hashem, spiritual debts. What does that show? This shows the great faithfulness of Hashem. His faith in us, even though we owe him, we may have some type of spiritual debt to Hashem. Maybe he bailed me out of a sticky situation or something like that. So even though I owe him, so to speak, he says, I've got your goods. But you know what? I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to return it to you to restore your soul in the morning, even though you owe me and didn't pay back yet, spiritually speaking. So that's that's the idea that Hashem returns our soul in the morning. From here, we darshan, the Jewish also, by the way, can mean extract as well. We extract from here, or as it says on the chart, we derive something else as follows. From here, we extract and we derive from here. We learn that you have to behave exactly the same way. You also have to return return an item, a collateral item, even if someone else owes you a debt. It's forbidden to hold on to an item of collateral that someone gave you, even if they owe you money. So let's say Reuven and Shimon. Okay, Reuven owes $100 to Shimon. Here's a debt of $100. Shimon, it just so happens, has Reuven's wallet, or has his car keys, whatever. So Shimon might say, I've got your car keys. When you pay me back, I will return them to you. That's forbidden according to Allah. You're not allowed to do that. Shimon has to return the car keys. Reuven has to pay back the debt, but one has nothing to do with the other. If Shimon has the car keys that belong to Reuven, he has to return them irrespective of whether they're his only way to get his $100 back. So in this way, we act just like Hashem. Even if someone has a debt to me, not necessarily a spiritual debt like I have to Hashem, but an actual cash money debt or some other type of monetary debt. Cash money. And you think to yourself, 1 second, I've got his car keys. Perfect. I'll hold on to his car keys until he pays me my $100. Oh, sir, that's not allowed according to halacha. That's it. That's the drush. Good? So it says on the chart, Hashem doesn't withhold your soul even if you have spiritual debts. So too, don't delay returning a collateral item even if the person still owes you money. That's Allah. Move along. Questions on that one? Or move on to the Kabbalah.
How do you repay a spiritual debt?
I like that question. How do you repay a spiritual debt? What does it mean to have a spiritual debt?
Yeah, I'm still not sure what a spiritual debt is either.
Okay.
How we acquire this debt. Same debt.
Well, it's an interesting question because it could be that a spiritual debt could take many different forms. It could be something perhaps as straightforward as I I quote unquote promised Hashem that I would do a certain mitzvah, let's say.
Promised Hashem.
Maybe I promised Hashem, listen, Hashem, if you get me out of the situation, or even not that, maybe your birthday is coming up and you want to make a good resolution for your birthday. Maybe some other auspicious time, a holiday is coming. You're looking for a way to improve the character and the quality of your life. So maybe you make some type of statement. Hashem, believe either I'm going to do such and such. You didn't do it yet. So you owe him, so to speak. That might be one way to think about a spiritual debt. There could be other ways to think about it as well. That might be one.
Is my sleeper cell that I haven't given to tzedakah yet a spiritual debt?
I'm sorry, what about
My
that?
sleeper scale. I haven't paid it yet, like to tzedakah,
Why not?
because I just came back.
Still living
Okay.
down the city.
Oh, so fine. So as soon as you have the
But it's
chance.
a spiritual debt, I haven't paid it yet, like I haven't
That's a catch.
used it yet.
Right. That might be both a spiritual debt and a cash money debt.
Wow, okay.
Actually, if
You
a
would want-
person, according to Allah, according to Shulchan Aruch, by the way, just interesting, that's not exactly related, but a side point. If a person says, I will give tzedakah to such and such, whatever, you're actually obligated according to halakha to give it. It's considered a vow, halachically. You have to give it. You say you're going to give it, you must give it. Tell that to all the people that make pledges and didn't pay their pledges.
The Chabad?
No, God forbid. Everyone pays their pledges to Chabad. Yes.
So some companies, or I don't know, like hotels, say, for example, well, if you want to play like ping pong in their lobby, you have to give them like your ID or something. Would that be not allowed according to the law? Is different because it's like, I'm giving you this, and in exchange, I'm keeping your ID to make sure you give this back when you're done. Is it different, or is it?
I think it might be a little bit different because that's more of like a business transaction, so to speak. That's more of a straightforward, like if you go into the store and you buy a chocolate bar or something, the guy can't be like, I'm not giving it to you.
Yeah.
That's more of a straightforward business transaction. Here would be more, again, if a person lends you money. Also a business transaction, but a different type of business transaction, and gives you collateral. They give you their watch or their car keys or whatever. Or maybe it's not even connected to it. Maybe you separately from that loan, you happen to have his watch for some other reason. So you're not allowed to hold on to the watch, even if it's the only way for you to get back the $100 you're owed. Other questions or comments about the drush, the extraction, the derived interpretation, or should we move on to Kabbalah?
Well, this makes it sound like everyone has this debt, but these are very like specific situations, I guess.
Well, the example I gave was specific, but it could be that you're right. It could be we all do have spiritual debts and so we have expectations of us. Every day we wake up in the morning and we owe Hashem various things. There are various Jewish expectations that we do during the course of a day. I didn't do anything yet. And maybe I didn't even do all the ones I was supposed to do yesterday, maybe. Nevertheless, Hashem gives me my soul. Great is your faith. Hashem says to us, listen, I know maybe yesterday you didn't fulfill all the obligations you were supposed to. So I might be entitled to hold on to the only collateral I have, also known as your soul, your neshama. But Hashem says, you know what? I believe in you guys. I have faith in you. I'm going to give you your soul back anyway. Even if you didn't even necessarily do everything you were supposed to do yesterday, I'll still give it back to you. Yeah.
But how could we do anything without our soul? Like we can't repay back any debt if we don't have a soul. So we kind of have to have it back.
We do. But a person might say, you know, like you play a video game, how many chances do you get before the game's over?
Mhm.
3 strikes and you're out, right? So it could be if a person has 3 strikes, they're out. Life doesn't go on after that. I don't know. People's life ends at some point, right? When does a person's life end? Well, really, a person's life ends when they've fulfilled the purpose for which they came to the world. Then you don't need to live anymore because you fulfilled your purpose in creation. You did what you needed to do. But in the analogy I'm saying now, perhaps God would be able to say, listen, you had 3 chances, maybe more than 3 chances, and like you didn't do it, not you, God forbid, and you didn't do it, so game over, like we're done here. I'm not going to give you another chance. Like how many chances do you get?
Mhm.
So it could be maybe that would happen. So yeah, of course you need your soul to quote unquote pay back the debts, but maybe there's like a limit to that. And at some point God might just say, listen, sorry. So he doesn't. He gives it to you anyway. And from there we say, so I should also act like that. And we derive from there this idea of not retaining someone's collateral object, even if they have a separate debt to you and they owe you money. And you would seemingly be entitled and wise to hold on to that watch in order to get your $100 back. You're not allowed to do it anyway. That makes a little bit of sense? Okay. Kabbalah, ready for Kabbalah, page 61. So Modeh Ani, according to Kabbalah, the secret of Torah is as follows. Melech chai v'kayom. And if you look again, if you want to look in your siddur, it's on page 5. Melech chai v'kayom. We say, Modeh Ani l'fanecha. I offer thanks to you. Who is you? Hashem. But we don't call him that. We call him Melech chai v'kayom. Means Melech, king, chai, alive, kayom, existing. Here they translated the living and eternal king. Melech chai v'kayim, the living and eternal king. That's how we call Hashem. So now, according to Kabbalah, what does that mean? Hu bechinas ha-malchus, k'moshe miuchedes in bechinas ha-yesod. So this is, in Kabbalistic terms, referring to 2 of the 10 Kabbalistic spheros, which are the 10, if you will, channels by which God interacts with the world, and creative process of the world goes through these 10 spiritual channels. They're called in Kabbalah the spheros. Some of them you've heard of. Chachma, Bina, Das. The Midos are Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. Then you have Netzach Hod. Then you have Yesoid and Malchus. Yesoid means foundation. Malchus means kingship. Okay? So, Melech Chai V'Kayim. Melech, king, is referring to the Kabbalistic sphere called Malchus. Melech, Malchus, king, is the kingship. Yeah. And Chai V'Kayim is Yesoid, is the sphere of Yesoid. So you have basically, you can imagine the spheros as almost like a filtering down process in a sense. The lowest of the spheres is Malchus. That's direct interaction, if you will, with the world. Whereas Yesoid is the one above that. So Yesoid, so to speak, filters into Malchus. Malchus relates to the world. Malchus is where time and space begin. Okay? Above the sphere of Malchus, there's no time and there's no space. So worldly matters, right? Time and space, what we are all limited by, only starts with Malchus. So Malchus is very much related to the present, to the here and the now, to the world. Whereas Yesoid, which again translates typically as foundation, but we might alternatively translate it as bonding. And in fact, in terms of the human, who we contain these 10 spheres within us as well, Yesod is the reproductive organs, because there's an element of bonding. That's where reproduction comes from Yesod, from bonding. So Melech is the sphere of Malchus, which is the worldly. Yesod is beyond the worldly. In the sphere of Yesod, there's no time and space. So Yesod unites with Malchus. I'm making hand motions as if that's what happens. The Yesod unites with Malchus, which means that which is beyond time and space, that which is beyond the world, unites with time and space with the world. That's what it means in plain English, a little bit of Kabbalah. That was Kabbalah 101 just now, or 102. Fine. That's what it means when we say on a Kabbalistic level, Modeh Ani l'fanecha, I acknowledge you, I'm thankful to you. Who's you? Melech Chai V'Kayim. Those words are very precise. It means the way Malchus and Yesod unite. Kabbalah. We're going to explain it more. If we have time, we'll explain it more. That's what it means. That's what it means. Melech Chai V'Kayim, the living and eternal king that did what? Shehechazarta b'nishmasi. That you, the living and eternal king, Melech Chai V'Kayim, returned my soul to me. That's what we're saying. It means that what is the mechanism by which my soul zips back into my body in the morning? Melech Chai V'Kayim. Simple. Malchus and Yesod unite. And that's how it happens. That's the plumbing, if you will. That the means by which my neshama is able to rejoin with my body, come back to me, is by the means of the sphere of Yesod uniting with the sphere of Malchus. Perfect, right? Makes totally clear and perfect sense, right? That's Kabbalah. Stunned. Everybody's stunned. Okay. Yeah.
It's like a little unrelated, but I just had a thought now question. Like if you take a 2-hour nap in the afternoon, or even say
Oh, that
shorter,
sounds so good. A 2-hour nap in the afternoon. Sounds so good. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
it could yeah, no, it would be good. Could be shorter though. It doesn't have to be too like even like say a 30-minute nap, like but you're like asleep and then you wake up, but it's not the morning, it's like the afternoon.
You want to know if your soul?
Are you supposed to say Modeh Ani? Like did your soul? Are you supposed to say
That's an interesting question. You want to answer the question?
I think I might know. So you're supposed to like wash your hands, but without a bracha, and you're supposed to say Modeh Ani if it was a 30-minute nap.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you are supposed to.
I that was wrong.
You're supposed to rinse it all the
Is
time.
this a bracha?
You don't say Modeh Ani is.
Middle school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is that Modeh Ani is recited in the morning when you wake up, not after a nap. That's the answer. An afternoon sleep doesn't have the same characteristic, same quality as we see. It really doesn't, as an actual sleep at night.
okay, then a different question. You are like a night guard and you work totally different hours from you don't wake up in the morning, you sleep in the day and you wake up at night.
So then you would say Modeh Ani when you wake up from your sleep, which normal people sleep at night.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so yes, we recite Modeh Ani in the morning specifically, and that's actually an important point that we may actually come back to depending on where our conversation goes now. Are you ready for the Chassidus?
Yes.
Okay, so we did 4 interpretations. Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Soy. The Pshat is, thanks for giving me my soul back. The Remez, the hint is, oh, it's hinting towards the resurrection of the dead. The Drush, the derived interpretation, is that just like Hashem doesn't hold on to my soul, even though I may owe him, so too I should not hold on to things that belong to other people, even if they owe me. And finally, the Sod, the Kabbalistic explanation, is that the means by which my neshama comes back to me is by Malchus uniting with Yesod. Those are the 4 interpretations. Now we enter the interpretation of Chassidus. So on my chart, I wrote some controversial words over here. It says, Chassidus, what is it? So I wrote everything and nothing. That's what I wrote. Everything and nothing. Which is not clear, I know that, but I didn't know what else to write. Other than it's everything and it's also nothing. It is within everything, yet it doesn't mix with anything else. Think of it perhaps like oil. What does oil do? Think about, I'm talking not spiritually, I'm talking the physical qualities of oil. You ever get an oil stain on your shirt? Forget it. Forget it. You ain't getting it out. It just seeps in, and it's like you can't get it out because it's just part of that now. Yet at the same time, oil doesn't mix with other liquids. You ever make a vinaigrette salad, like a olive oil vinaigrette? Put a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, salt, pepper, some spices. You shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, and it all looks like a nice vinaigrette, right? What happens when you let it sit?
Separate.
We'll put a binder in there, like an egg.
You could put a binder, that's true. You could put a binder. But barring the binder, what happens to the oil? Separates from the other liquids. Which way does it go? Sideways, up or down? It goes up. It always floats to the top. Oil. So oil is in a sense representative of Chassidus. It's within everything. It gets absorbed and is present in everything and everywhere. Yet on the other hand, at the very same time, it doesn't mix with anything. It's completely separate. It floats on top.
Is there a binder?
Is there a binder?
Yeah.
The binder is you. And we're gonna see. So, what is the interpretation of Chassidus? And then we're gonna try to take Chassidus and plug it in to all four interpretations. And we'll have the four interpretations we'll have are not going to change, but they're going to be illuminated by Chassidus, which is not something else. It's an illumination of what there already is. That's why I said Chassidus is everything. And I also wrote that Chassidus is nothing. So, what is the Chassidic interpretation of Modeh Ani? So here like this. According to Pshat, why did we say Modeh Ani? Why don't you just say Elokai Neshama? Why don't you just say God's name in the morning? Because you can't. You're not allowed to, according to halacha, because you didn't brush your teeth, you didn't wash your hands yet, so you're not allowed to say God's name. Therefore, seemingly, Modeh Ani is the silver medal, not the gold medal. We're only saying Modeh Ani because we're not allowed to say something better, something with God's name. Seemingly, that's the pshat. Comes Chassidus and says, no, it's actually the opposite. You specifically say Modeh Ani before you brushed your teeth. You specifically say Modeh Ani before you washed your hands and removed that spiritual impurity from your hands. Why? Because a Jew is always pure. And his Modeh Ani, his or her Modeh Ani, his or her acknowledgement of Hashem, his connection to Hashem can never become broken, can never become impure. So saying Modeh Ani is the greatest thing that you could do, because it symbolizes, it indicates that I have a bond with Hashem that can never be broken, that can never be damaged, that can never become impure. And the reason we don't say God's name is not because we're not allowed to. I mean, that's the reason according to Pshat. But in the world of Chassidus, that's not the reason we don't say God's name. It's because a name is actually limited. Regardless of which name we would choose, which name would you choose in Modeh Ani? Let's say you could choose one of God's names in Modeh Ani. Which one would it be? Would it be the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei name? Would it be the name Elohim? Would it be the name Kel? Would it be some other name of God? Well, it doesn't matter. Whichever name you would choose would be a limitation. So the fact that we just say, you, Modeh Ani lefanecha, I acknowledge, I thank you. It's above a name. It's unlimited. It's unbounded. So according to Chassidus, the meaning of Modeh Ani is that a Jew has a relationship with Hashem that can never break, and that is particularly detected and shown when we are impure. So it actually, Chassidus turns everything around. Modeh Ani is not a silver medal. We're not allowed to recite God's name because we didn't wash Nagel Vasa. We didn't wash our hands in the morning. It's actually the gold medal. It's the gold plus medal. It's winning all the golds of the Olympics. It's everything. It's the greatest thing because it indicates that my connection with Hashem is unbreakable, can never be damaged in any way whatsoever. It's always perfect. That's Chassidus. Questions, comments? Okay. Now we're going to try to plug Chassidus into all four interpretations. Remember? Let's go through this. What was the pshat? Yeah.
Thank you for giving me my soul back.
Thank you for giving my soul back. What if you got a different soul in the morning? What if you got someone else's soul? What if you got the soul of a dog, not you?
That wouldn't be so fun.
Wouldn't be so fun. Why not? You're still alive. Isn't it great to be alive? Okay, so you're a person, you're a dog. What's the difference? You're still alive. A pet. You could be a pet. You could have a nice home. Maybe your home would be in a penthouse in Manhattan. I don't know. So Modeh Ani says, well, the Chassidus of Modeh Ani says, whoa, 1 second. Thanks for giving me back my life. But what is life? What kind of life? A life of emptiness? But at least I'm alive. A life with no meaning, a life with no family, a life with no love, without poetry, without beauty, without music, without Torah and mitzvahs. That's not a life. So Modeh Ani at its core, on the level of Pshat, is not thanking God for giving me my life back. It's thanking God for giving me my life back. The life of a Yid. My life, not someone else's life. Even though if I got someone else's life, or even the life of an animal, hey, at least you're alive. No, I wouldn't thank God for that. Because once you're a king, the only life that's worthwhile is the life of a king. or a queen. I don't know if the silence means that this is so awesome, mind-blowing, or if it means don't know what I'm talking about. So stop me if you have questions or comments. Remez, the hint. What is the remez? The remez is, the illusion is that waking up in the morning alludes to the resurrection of the dead. Whoa, 1 second. There's no similarity at all. What are you talking about? Resurrection of the dead means you were dead, buried underground, 6 feet under, and a miracle happened. And somehow, don't ask me to explain how this works, you came back to life. Whoa, how is that like waking up like waking up? I didn't die. Waking up in the morning is like I was just sleeping. Okay, my vital functions were slower. Come on, there's no similarity between waking up in the morning and resurrection of the dead. What is the remez? How does it hint towards that? There's no connection at all. There's no similarity. Comes Chassidus and says, actually, it's exactly the same thing. Waking up in the morning is the resurrection of the dead. Why? Because Chassidus teaches, this is one of the central teachings of Chassidus, that at every single moment, the world was just recreated, boom, from nothing. Just like in the beginning of Bereshit, just like in the beginning of creation. At this very moment, boom, the Big Bang. The world and everything, the entire universe was recreated at this instant. So actually, yes, I just did come back from the dead. Or from the non-alive.
So then why do we just say Modeh Ani when we first wake up?
So great question. So why do we say Modeh Ani first thing in the morning? So the Rebbe asked that question in the secret that we're learning in this excerpt over here. It's the exact question. Why do you I could say it anytime during the day? You're right. You could say it anytime during the day. However, 1 second. 1 second. However, we specifically say it in the morning. Even though in theory, you're right. You could say it anytime through the day. Oh, you know what? The world was just recreated. Modeh Ani lefanecha, and me too. So Modeh lefanecha, I could say anytime. But no, we say it specifically in the morning because in the morning, when you first wake up and you open your eyes and you see, a new day. That's when you say Modeh Ani, because it's most recognizable then, the newness of the day. But really, the newness is at every single moment. I heard once a story that, the Lubavitcher Rebbe in his synagogue in Brooklyn, 770 Eastern Parkway. If you haven't been there, we should take you there. It's an interesting place, a very special place that radiates Kedusha, radiates holiness. So he had an office, when you're facing the building, if you ever saw a picture of it, the left windows, that is the Rebbe's office. And many people would come to the Rebbe for private meetings, audiences, and the meetings would usually start around 10 or 11 at night, and they sometimes would go to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning. And then the Rebbe would go home and then come back like half an hour later for davening. But many times the meetings, the one-on-one meetings would literally last through the night. This was like, not like every once in a while, regularly. And one can only imagine what kind of things the Rebbe heard in his room that never left that room. People's pain, people's suffering, people's sorrows, the childless couples that were begging for a blessing for children, the people who had, God forbid, diseases and needed blessings for refuah shlema, healing, and whatever other problems come to a person that would only come to a person like the Rebbe. So I heard once from someone that there was a whole long night, one of these nights of meeting with people and hearing all that sorrows and the tears and the suffering that people experience and need blessings and brachos. And at the end of the night, 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning, whatever time it was already, one of the Rebbe's secretaries came in to kind of like, okay, we're done, kind of thing. And remarked that the Rebbe looked out the window and saw the sun had risen and said, Anaya Tov, a new day. Despite all the suffering and all the tears and the challenges, but it's a new day. So yes, is it a new day at every single moment? Absolutely. Right now, boom, new day. Everything is new at every instant. But to answer Mati's question, but we recite Modeh Ani specifically in the morning, because that's when we look outside and we say, a night tov, a new day. That's when it's recognized. Did that answer the question?
And so it's relatable to humans. Right.
Soda, you ready for Kabbalah? No, wait, I'm sorry, I was about to skip Drush. Ready for the next level?
So exciting that you just had to.
We're going to see how exciting it is very soon. Drush, what was the Drush? That Hashem doesn't withhold your soul. I'm just reading from the chart. Even if you have spiritual debts, so too don't you delay returning a collateral item, even if the person still owes you money. So the obvious question is, why not? Why not? Why can't I hold on to the collateral, your watch, for example, if you owe me money? That's my best shot at actually getting you to pay me back. So meaning it's logical. If you said to someone, you know what, he owes me $100 and I've got his watch, I'm not giving it back until he pays me the debt. You probably would be like, I hear that, makes sense. I wouldn't give back the watch either. It's the only guarantee that he's actually going to pay you. Perfectly logical. But the Torah says you're not allowed to do that. Why not? But the Torah isn't into logic. The Torah doesn't like things to make sense and be fair. Seemingly, it's fair to hold on to that watch to get back your collateral item. I like it.
Doesn't seem like,
Why?
it just doesn't seem like the right. It seems like the right thing to do to say, you know, I'm not gonna be because they might not be able to pay you back right now. How's he gonna get home without his keys?
So maybe it's the watch. He can get home without his watch. I see you have an internal sense of doing the right thing. And that's really the answer, right? That's what how Chassidus illuminates this interpretation. Chassidus says that logic alone does not dictate the framework of a mitzvah. If you have his watch as collateral, you have a mitzvah to return it. He has to pay you the $100. He has a separate mitzvah. But that has nothing to do with you. You have the collateral of the watch, and the right thing to do is to give it back. Even though, again, we wouldn't fault you if you wanted to hold on to it to guarantee you'll get paid back your $100. Because this teaches us that really, Torah and mitzvahs, although in many ways and in many times logical and they make sense, but that's not the only way to determine the framework of a mitzvah. It's not purely logic based. Because really the core of every mitzvah is that this is what Hashem wants you to do. In some instances, it makes sense to us and we understand it, and we can appreciate it logically. And in other instances, I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me at all, but that doesn't matter. Because the core of a mitzvah is that it's what Hashem wants me to do, whether I understand it or I don't understand it. So in this case, even though we might understand if someone wanted to hold on to that watch as collateral, but if you have the watch, give it back. Because that is the right thing to do, because that's what Hashem wants you to do. Kabbalah? Nodding, yes. And what was the Kabbalah? Who can say the Kabbalah?
Attribute of Malchus expresses itself through the Yesod.
So it's the uniting of Yesod and Malchus. What does that mean? Well, I already explained a little bit of it when we started in the first place, because I felt like I had to explain a little bit of it. I couldn't let it go completely unexplained. Malchus and Yesod unite. That's nice. I explained it a little bit, but let's review it. Malchus, as we mentioned, so-called kingship, relates to space and time. Again, the whole existence of space and time didn't always exist. Space and time were created at some point. So in terms of Kabbalah, those only came into existence in the sphere of Malchus. Whereas Yesod is above space and time. It's above the world. So we have, so to speak, within the world and beyond the world. So Yesod, united through Malchus, is the above coming within. The soul going into the body. That's why it's Yesod and Malchus uniting, coming together, that brings the soul, which is essentially beyond, into the body within, essentially within the world, within time and space. Or, as I wrote here, the revelation of Malchus, as it unites with Yesod, is the revelation of the above, the transcendent, into the world. Again, astonished. You guys look like you just fell out of your chairs.
Sorry.
It was so shocking. You practically did fall out of your chair.
He slipped on
Been a
the.
long day.
I hear it's been a long day. Questions or comments?
So was that just the Kabbalah, or was that the?
That was the
text
Kabbalah.
of the day?
That was the Kabbalah.
Okay.
There's no Chassidic interpretation of the Chassidus. That's why that square is blank.
There should be.
That's why I wrote in the margin the Chassidus infused interpretations. It's if we take the Chassidus, the Chassidic perspective, which again is everything and nothing.
Oh, wait, that's.
And that's why in many ways, Chassidus in many ways cannot be defined. Because as soon as you define it, you've said what it is. But it's not anything. It's all pervasive. It's the oil that just goes in and permeates everywhere, yet at the same time is completely separate
So
and never actually mixes.
but Chassidus exists in the same universe as God.
Chassidus is, in one word, godliness. That's what it is.
So they're not mutually exclusive.
It's a direct expression of godliness. The Chassidic interpretation doesn't hide the godliness within it. Whereas other levels of interpretation, for example, Gemara. Love Gemara. Jews learn Gemara every day. But if you open a page of Gemara, where does it talk about God? It doesn't really. Gemara, in a sense, hides the godliness within. That doesn't mean there isn't godliness there, but it's hidden in the framework of Gemara, also known as the framework of like Pshat or Halacha. Whereas in Chassidus, there is no framework. It just is. It's everything and nothing at the same time. Chassidus has no form, and therefore it can be manifest in any form. And therefore we took Chassidus and plugged it into Pshat, then we plugged it into Remes, plugged it into Drush, plugged it into Soid, because it has no form, and therefore can take on any form.
So it's Hashem.
It's not Hashem. No, it's Torah. It's a part of Torah.
Well, there can't be two true infinite beings in the universe.
It's not a being.
So the Zohar says that God and the Torah are one. God's Torah, God's wisdom, and Him are one. In a human being, such a concept doesn't exist. But in Hashem, that exists. God and His wisdom are one. So when we learn Torah, when we learn God's wisdom, we are connecting to Hashem. But the Torah is not God. We don't worship Torah. We learn Torah because the Torah is united with Hashem. And that's the way to connect to Hashem.
I think I'm looking into like the word infinite too much. Because if Hashem is infinite, Chassidus is also infinite.
So maybe think of
the
it-
same thing, or one of them can.
Think of it as an expression of the infinite.
The expression of the infinite would be infinite as well.
Yes, because the expression would take on all the qualities of where it comes from.
But at that point, it's also a separate thing that is infinite.
Well, it's not a separate thing because the Zohar lets us in a little secret that Torah and Hashem are actually one.
It's like a binary situation. It's either part of it or it's not.
No, binary is math, but godliness is not binary. The Zohar actually says more than the Torah and God are one. It actually says Yisrael Oiraiso v'kudsha bricha kol echad. The Jewish people and the Torah and God are all one. So if you love one of those three things, but not the others, then that just means that you love the one thing is if you love Torah, you love Hashem, but you have problems with other Jews, something's lacking somewhere. But what you would be saying is correct if we were dealing with a binary system. But the whole concept of true infinity, of true godliness, it's not binary by definition, it's not binary. It's binary and it's also non-binary because it's godly. It contains everything and it contains nothing. That's part of the paradox of Hashem. And that's also, by extension, part of the paradox of Chassidus, or really part of the paradox of all of Torah. The Torah is, on the one hand, finite, on the other hand, contains the infinite. Yet that's most manifest, that's most obvious in Chassidus. Anyway, we're going to pause here. We can continue the conversation, God willing, maybe in the next class, but it's time for the class to pause for tonight. Thanks for coming.
And
We
then you
continue
know,
next week. God
we
willing.
can get a plug